Yvette Hardie, and Yvette is a director and also a president from ASITEC, and she is going to tell us more about the exciting event happening in May and how your school can benefit from it. Thank you. Let's give a warm welcome to Yvette.
Thanks, Charmaine. And hello, everyone. It's lovely to see you all here. But I'd like to start by just telling you a little bit about what ASITEC is. It's a strange acronym. For those of you who don't know it, it is in fact French, and it means the International Association of Theatre for Children and Young People. And we're an organization that exists all over the world. We're in more than 100 countries. But within South Africa, we are a national NPO, a network organization of members who all believe in the very, very important single aim that every child, every young person in our country, regardless of their circumstance, regardless of their context, should have access to the arts, and that the arts are formative in terms of human development. And really, I think, formative in terms of learning. One of the things that is amazing if you think about how children develop is that children naturally utilize the arts to learn. As very young children, it is through singing, it's through playing games, it's through enacting the world around us, it's through telling stories, listening to stories, that our engagement with the world begins. And often at school, that engagement starts to slow down and we start to move into another mode. And what I'd really love to encourage you all to think about is how can you access the arts to make learning more powerful, more transformative in your environment? Because ultimately what the arts offer you is a way into those multiple intelligences that all children have. It's a way to reach children who might not be able to be reached in other ways. It's a way to stimulate curiosity and imagination. And in the end, if we want people to learn anything at all, we have to make them curious, first of all. So the arts and theatre in particular, which is my particular love and passion, is all about that. It's all about opening the eyes of children and young people to what is in the world, what is in themselves, what they don't know about, and what perhaps they do know about, recognizing those things that they already know, but through representation are now able to understand that much better. Edward Bond, who is a playwright but also an educationalist, talked about the fact that the future depends on the state of our imagination. And I think that that's a wonderful quote to remember. And hopefully what we can do with the arts is we can really pay attention to the state of our imagination, and in so doing, think about how we build the future. So, to come to May, then. ASITEC, as I said, is a very large international association, and it's been in existence since 1965. So in May, we'll be hosting the very first ASITEC World Congress and International Theatre Festival for Children and Young People to ever happen on the African continent. It's a very, very exciting moment for us. And 3 years ago, it's a little bit like bidding for the World Cup in soccer or something like that. 3 years ago, a team of us went to Poland, to Warsaw, to bid with the National Arts Council, with the National Arts Festival, with Wesgrow behind us, with our ASITEC team. And along with us, we took a video, which I would like to show you, which just gives you a little window into what this is all about. So this is the video that we played at the bid. So that gives you an idea of the dream of bringing this enormous event to Cape Town. And of course, as I said, we were successful, and indeed it is coming. And we now have delegates coming from around 100 countries with the most extraordinary productions, which I'll be telling you about in a moment, along with workshops, with symposia, with discussions, with engagements for teachers, and a whole lot of different elements. And it's all coming to South Africa in May. So what is this cradle of creativity that we've been talking about? It's three things, basically. The reason for this meeting is that it's a congress. It's the meeting of the Association of ASITEC. So these 100 countries from all over the world coming together to discuss their business for the next 3 years. But it's also a conference, and I'll tell you more about the conference in a moment. And it's also a performing arts festival. The theme for Cradle of Creativity is intercultural dialogue, which seems so relevant for South Africa. In fact, this theme builds on a series of themes over the last 3 years that ASITEJ has been exploring, looking at intergenerational dialogue, interdisciplinary dialogue, and now intercultural dialogue in Cape Town. So here you get a sense of, I think I'm going to turn these lights off again to make it a bit easier for you to see, but here you get a sense of the Congress itself. So this is where we bid in Warsaw. That's what it looks like, with 4 days, 350 people representing all these countries. Then there's a research conference, which is obviously focusing on intercultural exchange in the arts, and specifically arts for children and young people. We have a research network called ITYAN, the International Theatre for Young Audiences Research Network, which is based in universities all around the world. And they're working together with the University of Cape Town and the University of Witwatersrand, Drama for Life, to put together this research program. So there's a 2-day academic conference, the 16th and 17th of May. Here are some of the speakers on that conference. Matthew Reason, who's been looking at the influence of theatre on early childhood development, on cognition and brain development, and on audiences' responses. Akua Kuma, who's been looking at the role of theatre in education in Ghana. Suzanne Lebeau, who's a leading playwright from Canada, and who's talking about the kinds of images that children engage with on the stage, and others. Emmanuel Dandura is a critic from the International Association of Theatre Critics from Nigeria. He's going to be talking about criticism in theatre for young audiences. Vicenzia Shule is also on our Theatre for Education program, and this is just a little taste of all the wonderful people who are coming from all over the world. Then there are the focus days. So this is an extension of the conference. So if you are interested in a particular area, then you may want to come to just one of these days. For example, the 18th of May, the focus is theatre and storytelling. The 19th of May is particularly relevant to all of you, theatre as education. 20th of May, theatre for social change. 21st of May, theatre for healing, theatre for children, by children. On the 24th of May, we have a day looking at dance theatre for young audiences. The 25th of May is Africa Day, of course, so we've got to focus on African performance, African storytelling, African playwriting. 26th of May is inclusive art, so inclusivity, disability, all of those issues are being explored on the 26th of May, and there's also a focus on music theatre for young audiences, a really huge growing field in particularly early childhood development, but also across the board. And then, of course, the 27th of May, a very important focus, theatre for the early years. So this is talking about theatre for literally babies, 0 to 6 years old, so babies and toddlers. And there's some extraordinary theatre that's being made for that age group, and which is having incredible results in terms of how it impacts its audiences. Yeah, I wanted to just give you a little window into one of the focus days, and I chose obviously theatre as education, just to give you an idea of the richness of it all. So Vicenzia Shule from Tanzania will be giving our keynote address. There'll be a representation from PAST, the Paleontology Society from WITS, who are looking at their program called All From One. They have this incredible play which looks at evolution, and they're talking about, it's reached literally millions of children in South Africa and in other parts of Africa, and they're talking about that program and its impact. There's also NEPAD and arts education in Africa. There's a big push at the moment for arts education across the continent, which NEPAD is investing in, so they're going to be speaking about that. There's going to be a panel looking at the importance of the arts for learning. Then how do we speak about theatre for young audiences, a workshop in that. The arts and drama as an integrated mode of learning is another panel. A workshop around there's more to being a superhero than superpowers. A very interesting exploration of a project which has been happening in the Eastern Cape, crossing the river towards an emerging pedagogy for integrating arts and maths education. Some really exciting work is being done on how maths can be stimulated and learned through the arts. And then also a panel on theatre in and as education. What forms can it take, does it take, what works, what doesn't, what are the sort of best case scenarios. So that just gives you an idea of a focus day. And if you were coming to this focus day, you could also see some productions related to some of these themes. So you would have choices beyond the talks and the workshops. But let's also talk about the festival, because this is so exciting. We have an international theatre festival for 11 days, comprising more than 50 professional productions. This is actually an old slide, because we now have a fringe, and so today we calculated we've got 64 productions. It is really amazing. And productions of all kinds for all ages, 0 to 19. But I promise you, I'm going to bet with you now. You can come and tell me after Cradle of Creativity if I was wrong. If you come to see one play on this program as an adult and you don't enjoy it, come and speak to me and I'll give you your money back. Because I promise you the work that is on this is just extraordinary. So let me give you a little window into what some of that is. You're seeing 2 of the pictures now, but I'm going to come back to them in a moment. We had over 800 applications from more than 85 different countries for this festival. Trying to select down to those 50 or now 60 productions is quite something. But just to give you a taste, from Lebanon, a puppetry piece which deals with the impact of war on children and on migration. I mean, all the issues that we're facing at the moment in Syria, etc., and across Europe are reflected in this production, which is a beautiful puppetry piece aimed at 10 years old and older. From New Zealand, The Bookbinder, absolutely magical storytelling with incredible object puppets and beautiful visuals, just totally engaging. From China, a piece based on one of their famous myths called The Three Monks, which is all about how you work together in collaboration, using kung fu, physical theatre, and extraordinary kind of acrobatic skills, and a lot of comedy, I have to say, as well, to tell this very important story. From Kenya, Tears by the River, a piece of puppetry, which is also looking at local myths. These are some of the countries that are involved, that are bringing their work to the festival. And then this is just to give you an idea of the range of ages. So on the left there, you can see a piece for babies, Sparrow, which is coming from Norway. Literally, this is for 3 to 18-month-old babies, and it is beautifully done with live music, 6 performers, really extraordinary piece. Up there we've got Zigzag Puff from Switzerland, a crazy dance piece which is just incredibly imaginative. It's one of those pieces where you think you're watching one thing and the next thing it just shifts into something else. It's one of those things that will literally blow your imagination because it's constantly transforming. And then down at the bottom there's an image again from Full Moon, so something for with a more serious content. Here we've got a range of styles and genres. So from Brazil, for example, we've got circus telling the story of Sinbad. Up at the top, we've got an amazing piece of dance theatre from Scotland, which is looking at interracial relationships and children who come of those relationships and their feelings about themselves and how they fit into the world. And down in the bottom right here, we've got a beautiful piece of puppetry called a mano, by hand, which comes from Spain, and which deals with feelings of loss and loneliness, but in a really touching and very beautifully done way. These are some of the world innovators and leaders who are coming. We've got a piece from La Carousel, which is a very famous Canadian theatre company on the left. This is called Gretel and Hansel. Tells the story of Hansel and Gretel, but from the point of view of sibling rivalry, and basically looks at the whole story as as a way of exploring how Gretel might feel when she suddenly gets a younger brother, Hansel. How perhaps she wants to push him into the oven a little bit more than the witch even, And it's a really amazing and very engaging piece. And then on the right here, we've got a piece from Denmark and the UK, from New International Encounters, which is about freedom of speech and hate speech, really relevant issues. It's based on the true murder of 2 men, Pim and Theo, Theo van Gogh and Pim, I forget his surname now, Dutch surname, but they were both relatively objectionable people who were murdered because of the kinds of things that they said. And basically this production asks questions around, what is the line? How far can one go? How much will you be able to defend freedom of speech? And the way it engages with teenagers is extraordinary. You just see young people coming out of this production discussing these issues in the most exciting way. Because of the whole focus on international collaboration, intercultural collaboration, we also have a number of collaborative performances on. So here, Red Earth Revisited, telling the story of Nongqawuse, the Xhosa prophetess. And of course, this one speaks directly to colonialism, to the taking of the land, to all the issues which are so relevant and pertinent right now. On the left here, we've got Zapato Seeks Zapato. It's a piece from Mozambique, Brazil and Mexico. And basically what it does is it looks at a myth that started in Africa, was transported across the Atlantic through the slave trade, is also now known in Brazil. And these two myths try and find one another. In translation, it means the left shoe seeking the right shoe. But there also are references to the Mozambican War and to the landmines, etc., that leave some children without either a left or a right foot. And how, so there are all sorts of really interesting themes that get explored in this play. And then on the right here, a piece for much younger children, Sandscapes, which is exploring the qualities of sand in a really imaginative and sort of engaging way. And it's a collaboration between Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and also our own Magnet Theatre in Cape Town. This is another example of a piece which is an intercultural collaboration, but also with really relevant content. It has a long title. Its long, full title is Patrice Balbina's Chance Encounter with the End of the World. And you can see all the countries involved in making this piece, but it's a piece about refugees, about what it feels like to lose one's home. And it's from the point of view of a 10-year-old child, and it's for 10-year-old children, and it's basically exploring that theme in a very dynamic, very amazing way. Here we've got some of the incredible work from South Africa. We have really great productions from South Africa. National Children's Theatre will be coming down with Koko's Treasure, which is a whole lot of stories from our rich traditions of storytelling. We've got Magnet Theatre's Ekaya, which also looks at home, interestingly, and poverty and issues of not having a home for very young children. We've got a dance piece for also very young children, by Nicola Elliott, who's a Standard Bank Young Artist Award winner. And we've got work like Mokgatepele, which looks at the 1913 Land Act. We've got Pockets of Knowledge up at the top here, which looks at the value of education and why education is important. We've got Making Mandela, which is a piece about Mandela as a child and what went into making him as a child, and basically deals with the first half of his life story. We've got Animal Farm, the book which has been a set work and of course has been contemporized within this production to really speak to South African culture and politics today. It's a very, very exciting production which hasn't yet been seen in Cape Town, which has been very successful all over the rest of the world, rest of the country rather. And then here we've got What Goes Up, the most beautiful piece of integrated performance aimed at deaf children specifically, but made inclusive to hearing children as well. But it was made specifically for deaf children, and obviously will be very connected to our inclusivity theme. Mbazeni, by a young female playwright called Koleka Patuma, who's also a poet. Really interesting piece dealing with death. And then here we've got the venues. We have divided the venues and focused the venues into age groups. So for example, if you are working in the preschool or foundation intermediate phase kind of area, you'll be bringing the children to the Baxter Theatre and they'll be seeing productions there. If you are working with senior phase children, then you'll be bringing them primarily to the City Hall where the productions will be happening. And if you're dealing with FET or youth, then it's at Artscape, so that's the kind of teen venue. We also have cultural hubs over the weekend, so there are 4 sites in various townships, and those are Gugastebe in Langa, Itembelebantu in Philippi, the Capricorn Primary School in our own, right next to our offices in Vleghron, Capricorn, and the 4th one is Atlantis, Rebecca van Amsterdam in Atlantis. We also have a youth development program, so they're young people who are engaged in leading teams of other young people to develop these cultural hubs and run them. So this is a whole youth development program. And then, of course, we have a lot of educational mediation. So we can offer pre- and post-show workshops We can offer talkbacks. We can offer workshops with international guests. Obviously, always making links to the curricula, developing educational materials that speak specifically to those productions. For those of you, I know I can see in the room some people who were involved in projects with us, like the Warhorse Project, for example, and you'll know the kind of thing that we're talking about. So targeted workshops that really bring the connections between the CAPS and the curriculum and the piece that the children will be encountering to life, in a way, and use artistic methodology to do it. So it's not talking about whatever it is, but it's actually immersing them in an experience through a workshop, which then allows them to understand the content better and to understand the issues better and to make those links. And we also have cultural tours for schools. So we've got 1-day packages and we've got 3 to 5 day packages for those who are able to come for longer. We've got some schools already booked from Joburg and Durban who are going to be coming down. And we also have workshops for teachers, as well as the workshops for the learners. So there's a lot on offer in this area if you're interested in exploring that with us. I mentioned the youth development. Obviously, the arts management training for the cultural hubs is a big part of that youth development. But another aspect, which I think, if I saw the list of names, I think some of the schools here may have, in fact, been involved in the early part of this. We also have a program called Young Critics, which is about teenagers who are going to be critics at the festival. So they are going to be writing about and podcasting about and putting up little videos about the work that they're seeing. And they were part of a program of training that we did last year at Artscape at the African Youth Theatre and Dance Festival. We have some Assetege ambassadors, who are people who are out there spreading the message about what we're doing and who are talking specifically about this event and hoping to raise funds for schools to come. And that is basically our event. I've left out some bits, but I think these are the ones that are most relevant to you. And what I would really like to encourage you to do, let me turn on this light first of all. So every single one of you can take at least 1 or 2, but if you'd like to take a handful, please do. And we also are very happy to come and deliver more to your school so that you can take them back. One competition over there. I've got a second competition for you. For those of you who would like to be able to offer tickets for 60 of your learners to come and see a production. So this is a special prize. There is a competition that you can enter. If you are a high school, then whoops, you can take this letter. And this letter is all about basically what we are asking the learners to do is to write a poem that speaks to the theme of the festival, which is, as I said, intercultural exchange. So what is the value of intercultural exchange? To write a poem about that. Each school can put forward 3 entries, 3 poems, and then the best poem will be selected. It will be given to all the delegates in their conference bags, so everybody will get to see this wonderful poem from your school. But your school will also then win 60 tickets to come and see a production on at the festival. And then the second one is for the primary schools, and for this one we decided to go visual arts. So we have some instructions for you as to how to make bunting. We've got some venues that we'd love to have beautifully decorated. So we thought that having children making some bunting would be really fantastic. So the idea is, and there's some instructions here as to how to make bunting. So the idea is that you would make a string of bunting, 30 little flags, which are decorated for Cradle of Creativity. And the best string of bunting will be selected and will win 60 tickets, but all the bunting will get hung up in one of the venues so that we can celebrate all the schools' involvement in this particular part of the event. Are there any questions? Okay.
Yes, I'd like to just comment I made earlier to you.
Yeah.
Because this is so inspiring. But when activism and theatre and transformation and leadership and youth and South Africa come together, it's amazing. It's like, wow. Yeah. Really.
I mean, I think for us, this is not about the event. I mean, the event is amazing. We are extremely excited about the event. Don't let me, lie about that, please. But it really is about using this event to change the trajectory of the future, to basically wake everybody up to the powerful tool that the arts can be in learning, and to find ways to integrate the arts more effectively in schools, in learning organizations, in youth generally, and to make sure that every child in our country, no matter where they happen to come from, have access to the arts. You know, it shouldn't be a case of how much money your family has or where you live and whether there is a theatre in your town or your village or whatever. You should be able to have access to the arts. And Asitej is really working to make that possible. And we have a number of other programs that we do which are long-term programs, like our Theatre for Youth program, which is about taking theatre to schools, touring theatre into communities, and our Kickstarter program, which is about empowering teachers who are teaching creative arts and perhaps haven't had as much experience as they would like or haven't been trained to teach creative arts to work with that CAPS curriculum. So those two programs are really longer-term interventions about trying to really, you know, shift how the arts can happen for children and young people.
Another question is just a comment. You're focusing and asking on the global competencies, the six C's as they call it.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that you're operating in this space, because one of the C's will be creativity.
Yes.
And we cannot deny, or we cannot exclude creativity from education. I'm glad you're speaking about how to creatively teach maths, because it's a space that's probably untapped.
Yeah.
And our kids need, you know, the creative mindset to be able to advance into the future. So
absolutely.
That you are in that space, and thank you for what you are doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's absolutely vital, and I mean, you know, that creativity is really at the core of everything, isn't it? You know, whether you're going to be a scientist or whether you're going to be a writer, it doesn't matter what direction you're going to go in. The ability to be creative, to problem solve, to be able to think of other possibilities is fundamental. So if we can stimulate that, you know, that's really, really great. And one of the things that we are seeing is that the arts can have so many other benefits beyond the sort of obvious. The program that we've been doing in the Kickstarter program that I mentioned in Free State and KZN, you know, one of the sort of really unexpected things that we've seen is just how school attendance has totally shifted over the 2 years of an arts intervention in these schools. And we have other schools that we're comparing them against, and you can see it is just obvious. You know, so I think there really are huge benefits to having an arts-rich environment for learning. So thank you very much, and please don't forget your letters and your newspapers and everything else. Thank you. Thanks, Charmaine.
Thank you so much.